Alright, so the giver kicks off in this dystopian world that's as polished as a Pinterest aesthetic board but way creepier once you take a closer look. Our guy Jonas is living his best, or so he thinks, life in a place that's all about sameness. No war, no pain, no bad vibes, but also, like, no color, no feelings, and no Taco Bell runs at 3 a.m. The trade-off is that everything's hella controlled. Everyone follows strict rules, like you'd get insta-banned from society if you stepped out of line. It's giving NPC energy because everyone's just vibing, doing their assigned jobs, and pretending it's totally normal. Chapter 1 opens with Jonas, our 12-year-old protagonist, stressing hard. He's got this big ceremony coming up where he'll get his assignment, which is basically the job you're stuck with for the rest of your life. No pressure, right? The government, aka the Committee of Elders, decides this for everyone, like some twisted sorting hat. Jonas is feeling all sorts of main character in an RPG choosing their class anxiety because, unlike his super chill friends Asher and Fiona, he has no clue what his assignment's gonna be. As we get into the nitty-gritty of Jonas's world, it becomes clear how weirdly organized everything is. There's a rule for everything, from how families work, 2 kids max, 1 boy and 1 girl, to your language, no exaggerations, no roasting, no nothing. If you mess up, you get released, which sounds innocent but is obviously Susie. Like, no one's explaining where these released people actually go. Big red flag. Anyway, Jonas's family has these mandatory nightly sharing of feelings sessions where everyone spills their emotional tea. It's supposed to help people process their day, but it feels more like forced group therapy. His little sister, Lily, talks about how some kid annoyed her at the playground, while his parents casually bring up work drama. Jonas, though? He's keeping it low-key, not wanting to share how nervous he is about his future. Mood. By chapter 2, we learn more about how this whole assignment thing works. Jonas's dad is a nurturer, which is like a baby caretaker. He's got a soft spot for this one baby named Gabriel, who isn't thriving as much as he should be, and Jonas's dad is low-key breaking rules by sneaking him home for extra care. Jonas's mom, meanwhile, works in the Department of Justice, where she handles rule breakers. It's like she's the cop in the family, and Jonas is just sitting there like, am I even cut out for this whole adulthood thing? Fast forward to chapter 3, and Gabriel, the baby, gets temporarily added to Jonas's family unit. He's got these weird pale eyes, just like Jonas, which is rare in their community. Most people have dark eyes, so this is kind of a thing. Also, Jonas notices an odd moment when he looks at an apple he's tossing around with Asher. It seems to change. Not like glitch in the Matrix change, but something subtle and unexplainable. Jonas doesn't even have words for it, which is wild because this society prides itself on being ultra-precise with language. The elders would probably throw a fit if they caught him being confused. Speaking of Asher, he's Jonas's bestie and the comic relief of the group. Asher's constantly messing up his words, which gets him into trouble because, apparently, being funny is not the vibe here. Fiona, their other friend, is a sweet, low-key perfectionist who seems like she's got her life together, but we'll see about that. For now, Jonas is just trying to navigate his weird world while secretly wondering if he's the odd one out. Chapters 4 and 5 dive deeper into how wild this community really is. Jonas volunteers at different places to build up his community credits, because even Dystopia has side quests, and one day he ends up at the House of the Old. It's like a nursing home where people go to vibe before they get released. Jonas helps bathe an elderly woman named Larissa, who's spilling tea about a guy who was recently released. She talks about it like it's a celebration, but Jonas is like, okay, but where do they actually go? Spoiler, we don't get any answers yet. Then, in chapter 5, we get one of the weirdest rules yet. Jonas has this dream about Fiona where he feels some kind of longing or attraction, his first stirrings of romantic feelings. But in this world, that's a no-go. The next morning, his mom explains that these feelings, called stirrings, are totally normal but need to be shut down ASAP. She hands him some pills that basically erase all his crush energy. Imagine living in a place where your feelings get nerfed by Big Pharma. Jonas doesn't question it, he just pops the pill like, guess this is my life now. Finally, chapter 6 hits with the ceremony, which is this big, 2-day community event where kids move up a year and get new milestones, like bikes or new jackets with pockets. Everyone gathers in the auditorium for the ceremonies, which are kind of a big deal. Lily's group, the Sevens, gets jackets with front buttons because they're finally old enough to dress themselves. Jonas isn't paying much attention, though, because the 12s are up next, and that's where the real tea is about to spill. The vibe in the auditorium is a mix of excitement and nerves, especially for the 11s like Jonas who are about to graduate to full-on adult-in-training mode. But of course, because this world loves its suspense, the elders drag things out. They call each kid up one by one, announcing their assignments with this whole speech about their personality and skills. Asher gets Assistant Director of Recreation, which is basically the perfect fit for his chaotic, fun-loving energy. Fiona is assigned to be a caretaker of the old, which makes sense because she's so patient and kind. And then, plot twist, Jonas's name doesn't get called. The elders straight up skip him, and the whole community is shook. Jonas is sitting there, feeling like the world's biggest loser, while everyone's staring at him like, what did you do? It's the ultimate cliffhanger moment, and Jonas is left wondering if his whole life just got derailed in front of the entire town. So yeah, the first 6 chapters are a wild ride. You've got this eerie utopia, tons of rules, and a protagonist who's starting to realize that maybe everything isn't as perfect as it seems. With the ceremony drama heating up, you know things are about to get intense. Stay tuned, because Jonas's story is just getting started, and something tells me it's not gonna stay this neat and tidy for long. Alright, so Jonas is sitting there at the ceremony of 12, and things are going great, until they're not. They call everyone else's name for their assignments, but Jonas? Nada. Skipped. Left hanging in front of the whole squad. The tension is real, and Jonas is ready to log off from life when the chief elder finally steps up like, oops, forgot to mention, you're actually special. She announces that Jonas has been chosen, not assigned, who fancy, to be the receiver of memory, which is a position so rare it sounds like the community's version of unlocking a secret boss level. The crowd starts chanting his name like he's a rock star, but Jonas is just standing there trying not to have a meltdown. The chief elder basically says, good luck, kid, this job's gonna be hard AF, but we believe in you, and dips. Jonas heads home feeling like the chosen protagonist in a JRPG, except he doesn't even know what his mission is yet. The next day, Jonas gets this little booklet of rules for his new role, and it's like the least comforting thing ever. The rules are wild, no sharing your training, no asking for meds to numb the pain, what pain? And oh yeah, you're allowed to lie now. Jonas is like, wait, what? Because lying was previously a massive no-no. Suddenly, the trust he had in everything and everyone feels like it's on shaky ground. The dude's questioning his whole existence, and honestly, same. When Jonas goes to meet the current receiver, who's now the giver, he walks into the super cozy, book-filled room that's way cooler than the sterile, gray vibes of the rest of the community. The giver is this old, wise dude with I've seen things energy, and he's about to drop some serious knowledge bombs. He explains that Jonas's job is to hold the memories of the entire world, like, not just their boring little community, but everything that came before. The giver calls it wisdom, but it's really like an emotional Pandora's box. The training begins with the giver transmitting memories to Jonas. And no, it's not like storytelling or a Netflix binge. The giver literally places his hands on Jonas's back and downloads memories straight into his brain, like some Matrix-level upgrade. The first memory is snow. Jonas feels the chill, hears the crunch of ice, and experiences the sheer joy of sledding. He's like, yo, this is lit, because, remember, his community doesn't have weather or hills or, apparently, fun. But of course, things don't stay wholesome for long. The giver introduces him to sunshine, which is all warm and happy, but then he follows it up with sunburn. Jonas feels pain for the first time and is immediately like, hard pass on that. This is where he starts realizing that his world has erased not just the bad stuff, but all the good stuff too. No pain means no joy. No risk means no adventure. It's giving serious Attack on Titan vibes, where the piece comes with some pretty disturbing catches. As Jonas continues training, he starts seeing colors for the first time. Yeah, you read that right, this community doesn't see in color because sameness. He's out here vibing with Fiona one day, and her hair suddenly flashes red. It's brief, but it's enough to make Jonas realize that there's so much his people are missing. The giver explains that the community got rid of differences, like color, to avoid conflict. Jonas is like, wait, you're telling me they nerfed rainbows because they couldn't handle diversity? He's starting to catch on that his world might not be as perfect as it seems. One of the more intense memories the giver shares is of an elephant being hunted. Jonas sees the pain of the animal, the sorrow of its mate, and the brutal reality of violence. He's overwhelmed, but it opens his eyes to what's been erased in his society, not just suffering, but also empathy and love. Back in the community, Jonas is starting to feel majorly out of sync with everyone. His friends, like Asher and Fiona, are still living their blissfully ignorant lives, and Jonas can't unsee all the layers of fake around him. Things escalate when Jonas asks the giver why the community even gave up all this stuff in the first place. The giver talks about how they wanted control and safety, but it came at the cost of freedom. The memories Jonas is receiving aren't just about the past, they're a reminder of what it means to be fully alive, even if it's messy and painful. It's like he's been playing life on peaceful mode this whole time, but now he's seen the chaos and beauty of survival mode, and he can't go back. Meanwhile, Jonas starts noticing things at home, too. Gabriel, the baby his dad is caring for, has trouble sleeping, and Jonas accidentally discovers he can soothe him by transmitting calming memories. It's a game changer for Jonas, who's starting to see himself not just as a receiver, but as someone who can give meaning and feeling to others. Gabriel's pale eyes, just like Jonas's, hint that he might be special too. But not everything is sunshine and rainbows, or, the rare flashes of color Jonas is finally seeing. The giver starts sharing the heavier stuff, like war. In one brutal memory, Jonas is thrown into a battlefield, experiencing the horror of death and the agony of loss. It's the kind of trauma that leaves you emotionally wrecked, and Jonas comes out of it questioning everything about his community. The idea of sameness, of sacrificing so much for the sake of peace, feels more and more like a scam. By the end of these chapters, Jonas is a changed dude. He's carrying the weight of the world, literally, and starting to see the cracks in the foundation of his seemingly perfect society. The giver, who's clearly been waiting for someone like Jonas, seems to have plans brewing, but for now, Jonas is left to process the mind-blowing reality that his world isn't what it pretends to be. The real question? What's Jonas gonna do about it? Alright, so Jonas is deep into his receiver training now, and let me tell you, this boy is going through it. Every day, the giver downloads more of humanity's lost memories into Jonas's brain, and it's like unlocking levels in a game that just keeps getting darker and more intense. At first, there's some cool stuff. Jonas learns about color, love, and freedom, which hit different when you've lived in a world of grayscale sameness. But the further he goes, the more he's like, yo, this isn't just sad, it's straight up dystopian nightmare fuel. Jonas starts asking all the big questions, like, why can't everyone see color, and why don't people have choices? The giver explains that the community chose sameness to avoid conflict and pain. Jonas is like, so y'all gave up sunsets and art and personal expression because you were scared of a little drama? Weak. He's starting to see how much his society has sacrificed for this fake sense of peace, and honestly, it's making him angsty in a way that even the best lo-fi beats to study to can't fix. One day, Jonas gets a memory of love, a family sitting around a warm fire, feeling all cozy and connected. It's so wholesome it could be the cover of a Hallmark card. Jonas is shook. He's like, wait, people used to actually care about each other? Like, for real? This blows his mind because in his world, feelings are watered down, relationships are transactional, and nobody really loves anyone. He straight up asks his parents if they love him, and their response? That's an imprecise word. Oof. That's the emotional equivalent of getting a K-text after spilling your heart out. Meanwhile, Jonas's ability to see beyond, the whole thing where he can see color and feel deeper emotions, keeps leveling up like he's grinding EXP in an RPG. But it's not all rainbows and sunshine. The giver starts showing him the darker side of humanity, and one memory hits particularly hard: war. Jonas is thrown into the middle of a battlefield, surrounded by chaos, suffering, and death. It's brutal. He feels the pain, the fear, the despair, and when he snaps out of it, he's physically and emotionally wrecked. This isn't just a bad dream, it's a reality his community has erased. Jonas is like, okay, but at what cost? Back in the real world, Jonas is struggling to reconcile everything he's learning with the bland, robotic lives of the people around him. His friends, like Asher and Fiona, are still vibing in their ignorance, and Jonas can't unsee how shallow it all is. Asher jokes around and follows the rules like nothing's wrong, but Jonas is over here carrying the emotional weight of centuries of human history. It's giving main character energy, but it's also lonely AF. Things take a turn when Jonas starts seeing the cracks in the community's whole perfect system. He finds out that his dad, who works as a nurturer, is prepping to release a baby. Jonas used to think release was this peaceful, ceremonial thing, but the giver lets him in on the horrifying truth: it's straight up murder. The babies, the old folks, anyone who doesn't fit the community's standards, they're euthanized in the name of efficiency. Jonas is like, you mean to tell me all this time my dad's been out here playing Grim Reaper with a smile? This revelation completely wrecks Jonas. He starts seeing the community not as a utopia, but as a messed up, soulless machine. He's angry, heartbroken, and questioning everything. Even his relationships feel fake now. He watches Asher and Fiona go about their daily lives, oblivious to the horrors beneath the surface, and he can't even vibe with them anymore. It's like when you outgrow your favorite childhood game, you can see all the glitches and plot holes, and it just doesn't hit the same. Despite all this, Jonas finds some solace in his bond with Gabriel, the baby his family is fostering. Gabe's been struggling to sleep, and Jonas discovers he can transfer calming memories to him. It's a sweet, tender connection that gives Jonas a sense of purpose amidst all the chaos. But it also makes him even more determined to change things. Gabe has pale eyes like Jonas, hinting that he might also have the capacity to see beyond, and Jonas feels an intense need to protect him. One day, Jonas asks the giver about the previous receiver, the one before him. Turns out, her name was Rosemary, and she was the giver's daughter. She couldn't handle the weight of the memories, the pain, the sorrow, the overwhelming truths, and she chose release. Hearing this, Jonas is like, dang, this job really is cursed. The giver looks devastated, and Jonas realizes how much loss and grief this old man has been carrying alone. By chapter 17, Jonas is at his breaking point. He's fed up with the lies, the emptiness, and the way his people blindly accept their hollow existence. He starts feeling like an outsider in his own world, but instead of breaking down, he's channeling all that frustration into determination. Jonas knows one thing for sure: things have to change, and he might be the only one who can make it happen. Alright, buckle up, because this is where Jonas's story goes from weird but manageable to I gotta break the system before it breaks me. By now, Jonas is fully woke to the fact that his community is a fake utopia, held together with a cocktail of lies, repression, and forced amnesia. It's giving Black Mirror meets Attack on Titan, and Jonas is done playing along. He's ready to yeet himself, and the truth, out of this dystopian nightmare. It all starts when Jonas and the giver start brainstorming ways to fix things. Jonas, still reeling from learning about the whole release equals murder situation, asks about what would happen if he just dipped. Turns out, when a receiver leaves the community, all the memories they've been hoarding get released back to the people. Imagine everyone suddenly getting a mental download of love, pain, war, and everything else they've been shielded from. Chaos, right? That's the plan. Jonas is like, if they won't let me change things, I'll break the system from the outside. The giver agrees, but he's staying behind to help the community cope when all those memories come flooding back. It's a bittersweet moment, like when your favorite anime mentor figure stays to hold off the boss while you go save the world. The giver even shares his dream of one day seeing real change, like maybe the return of love and family, and it hits Jonas hard. It's clear the giver is rooting for him, but also low-key passing the torch. Meanwhile, Jonas is feeling extra protective of Gabe. The baby has become like his little sidekick, especially since Gabe has been struggling with the whole fit into the community or get released vibe. When Jonas finds out Gabe is scheduled for release, he's like, oh, absolutely not. Over my dead body. That's the last straw. He grabs some supplies, takes Gabe, and makes a break for it. This isn't just a rebellious phase, this is a full-on jailbreak. Jonas's escape is straight out of an action movie. He's dodging search planes, biking through the night, and trying to stay one step ahead of the community's tracking technology. The stakes are so high it feels like a stealth mission in Metal Gear Solid. Every time he hears a plane overhead, he uses memories the giver gave him, like snow or cold wind, to mask his body heat so they can't detect him. Smart, right? Jonas might be new to rebellion, but he's got main character instincts kicking in hard. As the days pass, things get rough. Jonas and Gabe are running out of food, and the journey is taking a serious toll on both of them. Gabe, who's just a baby, is struggling to stay warm and fed, and Jonas is pushing himself to the limit to keep them both alive. It's like playing the Oregon Trail, except way more personal and heartbreaking when things go south. Despite the exhaustion, Jonas keeps going, driven by a mix of hope and sheer stubbornness. The landscape starts to change, which is a big deal because Jonas has only ever known the flat, controlled environment of the community. Now there are hills, forests, and even weather. Snow falls, and it's beautiful but also brutal. Jonas remembers the giver's memories of warmth and love, and he clings to those to keep himself moving forward. It's a reminder of why he's doing this, not just for himself, but for Gabe and for everyone back in the community who doesn't even know what they're missing. Finally, Jonas reaches the point where he's completely drained. He's freezing, starving, and barely able to move. But then, in the distance, he sees something that feels straight out of a memory, a house with warm light spilling out of the windows, like the family he saw in the giver's memory of love. It's like the finish line of a marathon he didn't even know he signed up for. Jonas, holding Gabe close, gathers the last of his strength and heads toward it. And that's where the story ends. It's ambiguous AF, like, did Jonas really find a new world, or was it all a hallucination as he froze in the snow? You're left wondering if he succeeded in bringing Gabe to safety and if the memories he left behind in the community are sparking change. It's the kind of ending that sticks with you, making you think about freedom, sacrifice, and what it really means to live.